When you want to implement enterprise generative AI application in your organization at scale, you are running into a whole bunch of different challenges that you have to face. Today, we will look into the organizational view on these challenges, into architecture, and how we build a system based on which we can build many different use cases with different AI tools, models, and processes end to end in a fast and reproducible way. Typically, in an enterprise, when you get started with enterprise generative AI in your journey, you have some sort of strategic decision that someone makes, maybe a high-level stakeholder or you for yourself. I was usually triggered by a moment like, hey, ChatGPT could help me with this and this. Maybe I can use it for that and that as well. So there's usually in the beginning always a decision of AI and that we are going to focus on. But there's a funnel. We decide to do something with AI into we have applications in productive use. And not all use cases will use or will make it to the productive use stage. And we can define this funnel a little bit more and look into how these different segments work. In the very beginning, when you're there, you have many different potential use cases. I say very explicitly potential use cases that you would like to do and try out with generative AI. Some of them might be a good idea in the first place. Some of them later will turn out to not have the impact that you expected, and some of them might be not really feasible. But in the beginning, especially the larger the organization is, the more applications, possibilities your people see, usually. And we have to, in the beginning on an organization level, manage that and look at the different ideas, make sure which of them do what in your organization, to prepare for a selection of use cases that you will actually put into production after a good proof of concept. When you have got an overview about all of the use cases that you could use with generative AI to make your business better, you have to define which ones you are actually going for and doing a proof of concept to validate an idea that you had and to validate the potential with an economic impact that one of these applications might have on your business. And this mapping in the beginning is not just a, hey, that could be cool with generative AI, but I always recommend that you analyze the potential economic impact in the best case. If you build a really good generative AI application that helps you with your processes to the extent that you can imagine, what economical impact does that have? Do I save 1 hour a week? Do I save 40 hours a week? Do I save even more? How many repetitions of these processes do I have? Do I save 1 time, 2 hours a week, or do I save 100 times 2 hours a week? You can, of course, give that all a number to your internal costs that usually a person would have to spend on it and say, hey, this is worth going for it or this isn't. And you need to make this decision before you start any implementation of a POC. Otherwise, you're just running around. Once you mapped your use cases and analyzed the economical impact, you have made kind of a pre-selection of use cases that you would like to try out, where we'd like to at least build a proof of concept to validate if you can make the impact that you initially initiated. In this phase, proof of concept building, it is the highest focus to build something where you can validate the core principles and the costs in terms of credits, in terms of AI usage for that process improvement that you do in the most easy and straightforward way. Don't worry too much about systems integration at that point in time. It is really key here to see when you have the process and assuming you have all of the data in place, what is the actual impact, what is the quality that you get out, and how much do you get better. And all of the integration part are a question for later. Once you build your proof of concept with generative AI, you mostly have not one proof of concept, but you have several. And you need to look into the actual economic impact they achieved in the POC. Could you make your processes 50% better? Could you save 50% of your time? Or was it just 40? Was it just 20? Could you even go better and do 80? And based on these validations, even though we don't have any type of integration into a projective environment yet, we have a first feeling of, yeah, these ideas we had in the beginning work or they don't. And depending on that, you have to filter again and select to the ones that go into the next phase. Once you have built your proof of concepts, you got a high-level overview on the actual impact and you looked into the numbers, you could say, yeah, if I use this approach, it will cost me per case these amount of credits in AI, these amount of credits in software usage fees, this amount. So you have an economic number where you can say, I need to spend $5 to $25 per case, something like that. And based on that, you can go then into the building of the productive solution. Ideally, the gap between the POC and the productive solution is not that big. I always disencourage to build a throwaway prototype in the first place, then to rebuild it all again, because there's a lot of validation that you can also do in the meantime. So building these productive solutions are the last step before we have solutions that we can put into production and roll out in our organization. When you build proof of concepts with enterprise-grade generative AI, and not only one proof of concept, but more that you want to then get into production, there are a couple of pitfalls and objectives that you have to do. Think a little bit like do's and don'ts, and what I'm giving you here is my experience that I have with having dozens of clients in exactly that type of projects. When we go into the don'ts, number one, if you have 50 use cases, don't build 50-point solutions. There is no point in having 50 teams that all then try to learn how to use the OpenAI API to do X, Y, and Z, and then have different bases. Think of it as a platform if you have something like that, or if you want to take it from an external vendor, where you can build many different types of solutions. Don't isolate your proof of concept phase from the production phase, because this disconnection might lead to things that you miss in the place, like integration or quality perspectives. Many people that start getting their hands on generative AI start, let's make some sort of test bed and people can just do whatever they want. That doesn't help you or doesn't make any impact if you're not working without processes that will actually make an impact in your organization. Trying out is good, but do it with a purpose and with a clear objective. Don't think that every solution is unique and that you need to reinvent everything. There are 4 different types of applications that cover 90% of all of your enterprise generative AI applications. There are chat applications. Many people think everything is a chat application, but it's really not. It's more about AI process automation applications, editor applications that are powered by AI, and these type of search interfaces, search applications where you need to do some knowledge work. And you can group most of the cases that you have in your organization into one of these categories. Costs. Think about generative AI as a commodity. Every completion that you do with a GPT-4 model, a GPT-4o model, or whatever model is paid per use. So if you have something that costs you per case $5, you need to be aware of that from the very beginning and not say, yeah, scaling costs will be done later. No, this is something that you have to take in from the very beginning and have an eye on. What many people do is they focus on saying, yeah, the model is good or bad as the key variable to achieve the quality in their processes, what it is. Actually, in most cases, it doesn't matter if you take GPT-4, GPT-4, or even GPT-3.5. For many cases, these models perform very similarly. If you use it in the way that you actually build processes with different steps and orchestrate them step by step, in each step, focus on one very specific task. And this is where I say orchestration is much more important than if one model performs good or bad. Most of them, especially the frontier models, are very similar to each. And when you validate, don't take small samples. Try to get the biggest amount of validation that you can get possibly in that pace. Now let's talk about the things that you actually should do if you have in your organization to take care over a whole bunch of different use cases from a whole bunch of different units with different business objectives. The first thing that I want to tell you is have a platform in your organization for these use cases that can scale. Not only a prototyping platform, but also a platform that is there for productive use, where you can connect all of your data, all of your orchestration, all of your models, because it's more about combining different models in longer processes together. Have this as a continuous process from idea to prioritization and to production. Track the impact that each of your automation does, and don't see them too isolated from each other. When trying out and when you're in that playing phase, give people clear objectives what they do. Nobody helps you if they come up with, oh, I wrote a nice poem about our product description. If you can't use it for marketing or anything that gives you any type of business value, there's no point in doing that. Let people play around, but give clear objectives where you want to go and what they need to focus on. Each of these applications that you do, or let's say 90% of enterprise generative AI applications, can be grouped into 4 different types of enterprise generative AI applications: the chat applications, editor applications, knowledge management applications, and AI process automations. You can cover 90% of all use cases just with these 4 types. And if you have a platform that you can use to build these 4 types very easily, you have gained a lot in your process. Optimize credit usage as soon as possible, because these prices will eventually go down. Look from it from the very beginning, because these type of mistakes can be lost. Instead of focusing on models, focus on process orchestrations that will lead to reproducible high-quality output. It doesn't really matter if you take GPT 3.5 or GPT 4 or GPT-4 in many cases, if you're not writing large prompts, but if you do it in the way that you should as an enterprise, where you have repeatable processes, you need to look into the different steps. And therefore, the orchestrations of these processes are much more important than the model, because you can't really influence them anyhow. And when you do evaluation, do it quantitatively. Evaluate the outputs with automations wherever it's possible, and do it on a larger scale. Don't take one user that tests and another user that tests. Try to come up with usage scenarios and evaluate them many different times. Enterprise generative AI platforms help you scale and structure all of your use cases across your organizations. Good enterprise generative AI platforms have all of these different layers, including orchestration, maybe some sort of predefined application layer, integrations to data, and integrations to the model layer. You can build your own in-house platform from scratch, where you have full control end to end, but don't underestimate this task. It's more than just getting a ChatGPT subscription. Basically, you have to have some sort of business process engine if you really want to have the scaling. Of course, you can take an external solution, then you have no effort to implement the underlying platform, but integrations might have limits and customization might take quite some effort. And don't forget about vendor lock-in. If you are just selling yourself to the Microsoft ecosystem, they sell standard solutions, and many of the things that you can do where the actual value of generative AI is not a standard solution, but always the same process, but always different context. So if you are restricting yourself too much with something like a Power Automate platform or something like that, look really into your use cases and the common requirements that you have before you go for an external solution end to end. What I always recommend is a solution where you have a lot of flexibility, where you as the in-house department take care of all of the data and the getting the things where it goes, and then deploy an external solution, but within your existing infrastructure, within existing integration. And this is what we do at EntAIngine. We have one platform for many applications that we can use and deploy in your organization, in your enterprise, that enables you to build these 4 types of applications that we have been talking about end to end. We have many different models, proprietary, open source. We have models for text, image, voice, and others. We can completely deploy the stack fully on-premise or in the cloud, with fine-tuning, with retrieval augmented generation, with a low-code app builder, and all within your enterprise-grade authentication, authorization management, and governance, including all of the compliance that you need with standards that we have.